We're going to treat ourselves today with some dessert. We're going to make a Gâteau Basque. This is a very classic dessert from the Basque region, which is in the Pyrenees between Spain and France. It's a cakey kind of tart with custard in the middle. Traditionally, it's made with vanilla custard, but we're going to bump it up a little bit with the chocolate pudding filling inside. And it's going to take two recipes. We'll do both of which, and then we'll do an assembly at the end, bake it off, and this is an awesome home dessert. We need to begin by making the chocolate filling, which we will need milk, egg yolks, granulated sugar, cornstarch, cocoa powder, and butter. In addition, for equipment, we're going to want a saucepan, whisk, rubber spatula, a plate or a tray or a pan, anything just for pouring out the custard when we're done, and some plastic wrap. Brought my milk up to a boil. In the meantime, I've combined my sugar, cocoa powder, and cornstarch. We're going to add this into the yolks. Make sure you have a bowl big enough with the yolks so that you have room to work. Don't go too small on that. Then we're going to slowly add a little bit of milk. Go back to the fire. Very important you get as much of the lumps out of this as possible at this point. That'll prevent you getting a lumpy custard in the pot. Alright, we're going to add this back to the pot. And we want to cook the cornstarch out, so this needs to come to a good rolling boil. It's going to look like lava pretty much bubbling up to the surface. And don't worry, you can't overcook the yolks on this. You're not going to curdle anything. The cornstarch in there is really going to protect the yolks from overcooking into just a gross kind of scrambled egg, so you'll be fine. And it'll get really thick. You want it to make sure that it bubbles up and boils for a couple of minutes. This way you're sure that the cornstarch is cooked out. Then you remove it from the heat. Take your butter, pop that in there. Stir it in. Once the butter is incorporated, pour your custard right onto the plate we had ready. Okay. And then we'll cover with plastic just to prevent the skin from coming up. Recipe 2 is going to be the Basque dough itself. We're going to do this on the standing mixer with the paddle attachment. We're using butter, sugar, salt, eggs, and flour. We're going to be mixing this in what's called the creaming method. That is when you start with your butter, your sugar, and your salt. You mix that until they are homogeneous. You add your eggs, When that's homogeneous, then you add your flour at the end. That is called the creaming method. Butter, sugar, and salt are combined. Now I'll add my eggs and mix those. The egg is already mixed in. Now I'm going to add the flour. Everything's incorporated and we will begin assembly. So to assemble, we can use a variety of pans. As long as they're oven safe, you could go small individual numbers. I'm going to go in my cast iron pan because I love to cook in these. A pie tin works. Traditionally, it would be a shallow kind of flan or tart mold to be used. I don't have piping bags at my house, so in lieu of that, I use a good, strong freezer gallon-size Ziploc bag. I'll put some of the dough in here. You don't have to put all of the dough in here at once. Put only a little bit that you can handle at a time, and then simply cut an opening, maybe about 1/2 inch, and then you can treat this like a regular piping bag to put it into the mold. So we're going to pipe a layer all the way around. And you can still move this around. I've greased this pan a bit. It still can be played around, so you don't have to make yourself too crazy about this. And then just keep going until you get a pretty even layer along the bottom. So I'm pretty much there, so I'm just going to press this in just to make it all nice and even across. Fill in any small gaps. You don't have to make yourself too crazy with this because as it bakes, it'll expand and it'll fill out any of the little holes that might exist. After that, we are going to pipe a little border all the way around the edge, so that we can fill in with our custard. Using the Ziploc bag as a piping bag, I've piped the chocolate custard once it was cool into the mold. Once the pastry cream is cool, it's going to set up, so you're going to want to whisk that first, break it, or put it in the RoboCoupe, blend it up until it's smooth, and then you can go ahead and pipe it. So I've piped the top and then I smoothed it out a little bit with a spatula. Now we're going to dust it with a little bit of confectioner's sugar. And it goes into a preheated 350-degree oven. Alright, 45 minutes later, nicely browned around the edges, a little bit on top. Let it set up for about 20 minutes before you cut into it. You can eat it either warm or room temperature or slightly chilled. It is awesome.